Welcome to Figures Podcast. In today's episode, we will be talking to Trae and Johnna Buchert, owners of Dude DeWalt Cellars. I'm your host, Chris Jones. All right, well, today we're here interviewing Dude DeWalt, and we're really interested in learning a little bit about the winery itself. It has a unique history, and we've got some really amazing guests to talk to about it. So if you don't mind, could you introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure. My name's Trae Buchert with Dude DeWalt, and we've lived up here for about 18 years now, and decided to get into the wine business, and we're excited to have this opportunity today.
Perfect. So tell me a little bit about how you got into the wine business. It's pretty interesting. You guys have a very different past, is my understanding.
Yeah, we've always liked to go around the world and do wine tasting at different venues, whether it's Italy or South America or just locally here at the wine tasting and venues. And it's been a lot of fun for us. And in 2011, for whatever reason, we decided to go ahead and make a little bit of wine. So we went to a local vineyard, bought probably a couple 100 pounds worth of grapes and threw them in some 5-gallon buckets, and just to see if we could ferment grapes and what happens. And it was an interesting process. We were able to do it. We made wine out of it. It wasn't very good that first year, but we had some fun. And at the same time, Johnna was going through some winemaking classes at WSU, so we were kind of learning two ways simultaneously at the same time. So the next year comes around, we do a little bit more and get a little bit better at it. And the third year, it kind of becomes an addiction, actually, on the making the wine. So you can't do anything until the next year because you got to wait for grapes to come along. So just one thing led to another. Our friends start pushing us a little bit, and peer pressure, and the next thing you know, we're in the wine industry. So that's kind of how it came about.
That's perfect. So you live on the property, correct?
Yes.
So did you guys end up producing wine while living here, or did you move here in pursuit of your winemaking journey?
We were already living here when we started the whole ordeal.
Okay.
We moved here in 2003 and didn't start making wine until 2011. So we had no idea about the wine making business when we purchased this property.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm excited to talk to your wife a little bit about the property and kind of the elevation and some of those things. I understand that you guys happened to stumble upon an area that is ideal for making wine. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. We live within the Snake River Valley AVA, but here about 5 years ago, Three Horse Ranch, which is just up the road for us, started a project to create a new AVA because we're just a different type of landscape up here in the foothills compared to what the Sunny Slope area is down by the Snake River. And there's different soil types, different weather patterns, and the grapes that they were producing at the time and still are producing are a lot different than what's coming out of the Marcine area. So we've got a new AVA. We're excited about it. We've got 3 acres in right now. Going to be putting in 5 more acres this year, and it'll be 3 or 4 more years before we really know what we have for sure. But what we've seen thus far, we're really excited about the quality of grape.
That's really great. So I want to know a little bit about the business of making wine. That's very interesting to me. I happen to be an entrepreneur myself. So can you tell me a little bit about some of the challenges that you had when you started up?
Well, obviously, probably one of the biggest challenges, and we're learning that more as time goes on, is just finding good quality grapes. And we're learning that we've got to really be selective on that and where we source our grapes from. The wine is not going to be any better than its weakest link, and it starts with the grapes. Grapes are a big portion of the quality of your wine. So I'd say that's one of the things. And anytime you start a new business, there's a lot of regulation that's involved, and startup costs and legal issues that you've got to overcome, especially when we deal with alcohol. And Johnna can get into a lot more of that with you, but those are some tough things. It's tough for small business to start nowadays. So it's but with Johnna, she's an attorney by trade, so that helps a lot with our family businesses and what we have going on.
Sure. Well, that's perfect. So when you guys started up, you guys obviously decided that you're going to market the grapes to the community, or the wine that's made from the grapes to the community. How did you go about that process?
Well, when we started up in 2011, we were just going to make a little for ourselves, and then our friends started liking it, so we were kind of started, well, marketing to our friends. We weren't even marketing and selling, we were just giving it away. In fact,
Sure.
we still give away a fair amount of wine, especially some of our older stuff that wasn't licensed when we made it. So, it was probably about 2016, I would imagine, when we kind of decided that maybe we need to take this seriously and get into it. Three Horse, as a lot of people are aware, up the road from us, has been in the business a few years, and I think it's really important in the wine industry that people realize that the businesses feed off each other. It's not like we're competition, it's like we all help each other. So when you get more than one or two wineries in the area, I think it kind of helps to explode or grow the business. So it helps us all. So we're all excited about the potential and the new wineries coming into the area, and I think it's going to benefit us all.
Good. Now, I'm a big fan of your wine, and I come up here quite often. So I'm just curious how, I found out about it through a friend. Is that how most of your marketing takes place? Do you guys just have a lot of referral people? I notice that it almost feels like a little hangout club up here some of the days.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the things that maybe makes us a little unique, is people just like coming up here and hanging out and having a fun time. Just the atmosphere. I mean, yeah, it's a good place. We try to have fun. We have great gals and staff that really get along well with our customers, and I think that's a big portion of what makes us successful. So
that's great. So the friend that actually introduced me to you guys told me the name. They said, "Hey, the name of this winery is Dude DeWalt," and I thought, "Gosh, I've never heard of a winery like that." Can you tell me a little bit about the name and where it comes from, what its origin is?
Sure. I guess I'll give you the long version. Is that what you want there?
That's exactly what I want.
So. Well, when we bought the place back in 2002 from Jim Little, who's part of the Little family, he told us that we lived on Dude DeWalt Gulch. And at the time, I never really thought anything about it, but in 2011, when we were looking for a name for our business, Johnna said, "Well, I think we live on Dude DeWalt Gulch," or something like that. And she said, "I can remember Jim telling us about that." So we called Jim, and Jim said, "Yep, you live on Dude DeWalt Gulch. I don't know much about the story, but he said, if you call a guy by the name of Joe Arrieta down at the Bass Center, he's an old foreman for the little sheep family, and you go down and talk to him, he can tell you all about it." So we scheduled an appointment to go sit down and see Joe, and he lived down there, and he had an interpreter the day we went down to see him, because he still after all these years in America, didn't speak a lick of English. So we went down, and he told us about Dude DeWalt. His recollection of the story was that back in 1931, him and another sheep herder were out on the ridge just beyond the house here, and had a couple girls with them, and they were drinking, and they ended up getting in a fight over the girls, and Dude DeWalt got shot by the other guy and ended up dying a few days later. They tried to prosecute the guy that had shot him, ended up acquitting him, claiming it was self-defense, which could be the story. But kind of the ironic thing about the story is that somebody did get thrown in jail over the deal. And it was 1931, if that's any hint. So 1931 was during the Prohibition. So they went down to Star, found the guy had sold him the alcohol, and put him in jail over the deal. So it's kind of a funny little story like that.
Sure.
Also, the way that Joe Arrieta told us the story was that Dude DeWalt's name was Dude DeWalt with a D on the end. So all of our initial licensing and setting up all the TTB and everything else we did, it was spelled Dude DeWalt with a D. So here a couple years ago, Johnna was doing some research and found out that it was not Dude DeWalt, it was Dude DeWalt. So we're thinking, oh my goodness gracious, it's a lot of work to go through and change your name and all this stuff. So we decided, kind of made an executive decision between the two of us. Nobody's ever heard of this guy. Who knows how much truth there really is to the whole story anyway. And so we just decided to just leave it Dude DeWalt. Later that summer, we were up in McCall golfing, and John and I happened to spend the day with Brad Little, our governor, up there, and he got asking, "Hey, how's the winery coming along?" I said, "Oh, pretty good." And he said, "Hey, by the way, I want you to know I got a set of Dude DeWalt spurs hanging on my garage wall." And we're thinking, oh my goodness, this story really does have life, and there's more truth to it than we had recognized. So we talked about it, and we decided to go ahead and make the executive decision to go ahead and change the name back to Dude DeWalt. So we went through all the licensing changes and everything. So that was pretty kind of a sidekick to the story. But since then it's been really fun. We've had a lot of family members from Dude DeWalt come in and tell their rendition of the story and just want to say hi and introduce themselves. And some of the old ranchers in the area have stopped by and say, yeah, we remember about Dude DeWalt. And everybody has a little bit different story on Dude DeWalt, so it's kind of fun. But and part of it's just carrying on some Idaho history. We live on a gulch here, and really the gulch is just where the highway goes up. It's only about a mile-long gulch, but it's got a name, and so we're carrying it on. And
sure. So that's the inspiration, was just carrying on the name of the.
Yeah, I think so. A little Idaho history, and it had some meaning, and the story's kind of grown, so it's got a good story behind the name Dude DeWalt. So.
Well, I certainly think it has a punch.
Yeah.
So it drew me up here.
The other ironic thing about Dude DeWalt is he was never shot. So he was actually stabbed. So we had to change our story a little bit too on how we tell the story about being stabbed. So it's evolved over time, but I think we're getting closer to the real
It's
truth.
almost like you could write a book about
It's a mystery.
Yeah, those choose your own adventure ones.
Yeah, exactly.
You can pick.
Yeah.
So, well, I appreciate you coming out. So can you talk to me a little bit about the soil? I understand that there's some sort of lava rock or something different about the soil composition.
It's all a volcanic-based soil that we have in here, but up in the foothills here, it's basically the way this soil, especially right specifically in our area, we have about a foot to a foot and a half of a loamy topsoil, and underneath of that, where the rain settles down, we'll get a caliche layer. So it's important we break up that caliche layer before we plant. But underneath that, it's just pure white sand.
Okay. Does that do something to the flavor of the grapes or the way that they mature?
Well, it just makes very well drained soils in this area, and no doubt it's going to affect the flavors of the soil. When you get a little bit further to the north of us here, they get into more decomposed granite, and that'll change the flavors just a little bit. But I think the weathers is as important as anything. We get a lot of downdraft off the hills in the falls and the springs, which I think kind of protect these foothill areas from the heavy frost and freezing that we'll get in some of the lower elevations of the valleys. So I think that's a critical aspect to where we are as well.
Okay, perfect. Well, talk to me a little bit about your future plans. I mean, you guys obviously have some pretty significant plans. What do you guys want to do?
Well, I guess first and foremost, we want to continue to take care of our club members and the customers that come in, and not let that we don't want to get distracted from that. And I think, like I said earlier, we got a great staff that assists us in that. And and Johnna and I want to be able to continue to take time to mingle and get to know our customers and spend time with them. So that's important. We want to maintain those. We're, as you've seen by walking around our facility, we are out of room, and we have no more room. And part of it was when we got in this, we just didn't know what to expect. So we just kind of built based on what we had here. So we're working with the county right now under a conditional use permit application to build a production facility on the property. We would keep this tasting room that we've got right here, but just a production facility, so we have some room to actually produce our wine, ferment it, store it, keep our case goods in a location outside of our tasting room here, free up room. So we're excited about that.
That's great. So do you guys sell to restaurants?
On a very limited basis. Most of our sales are direct to consumer right out of the tasting room here, internet sales, but we have 2 or 3 local restaurants or that we kind of wholesale to and let them resell our wine, but it's pretty limited at this point.
Is that of interest to you guys in the future?
I think if you're going to continue to grow, you've got to look at it and keep your eyes open to it. So
perfect. So you don't necessarily have a business to consumer model or a consumer to consumer model. You're open to either?
We're open to either, but right now we're focusing on our direct to consumer directly from us, and that's our primary focus at the time. And as we kind of learn more about the business and we free up a little bit of time, we'll probably start pursuing some of those areas. And part of it is keeping up with production as well. We've got a limited amount of wine and grapes at this point. So as we get our production facility and we continue to grow, it's going to open up some opportunities to expand into some other areas.
Well, is there anything else unique that you might want to tell me? Obviously I don't catch everything all the time. I mean, is there something?
Well, I mean, it's really been a a fun venture for us. We didn't know what to expect when we got into it. The number of customers and friends that we've made is way beyond what we had ever expected, and the people that are willing to help and come and assist and take part in what we have going on is just blowing us away. So it's been a lot of fun from that standpoint.
Well, you've done amazing things here, and I really appreciate you taking the time to interview us.
Yeah, well, thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
All right.